们来自不同的地方，要前往一个共同的方向。那个地方是我们的家，金丝金蛇伴我们飞翔。我们来自不同的地方，却带着一个共同的梦想。人生的路共同开创，刺激世界，一同成长。纵然路上充满困难，我们也是微笑承担。纵然走来有些惆怅，心中的爱却能化解忧伤。感恩有您在我身旁，四季路上有您陪伴。感恩和我分享忧伤，四季世界充满爱的力量。我们来自不同的地方，要前往一个共同的方向。那个地方是我们的家，金丝金蛇伴我们飞翔。我们来自不同的地方，却带着一个共同的梦想。人生的路共同开创，刺激世界，一同成长。纵然路上充满困难，我们也是微笑承担。纵然走来有些惆怅，心中的爱却能化解忧伤。感恩有您在我身旁，四季路上有您陪伴。感恩和我分享忧伤，四季世界充满爱的力量。我们来自不同的地方，要前往一个共同的方向。那个地方是我们的家，金丝金蛇伴我们飞翔。我们来自不同的地方，却带着一个共同的梦想。人生的路共同开创，刺激世界，一同成长。纵然路上充满困难，我们也是微笑承担。纵然走来有些惆怅，心中的爱却能化解忧伤。感恩有您在我身旁，四季路上有您陪伴。感恩和我分享忧伤，四季世界充满爱的力量。我们来自不同的地方，要前往一个共同的方向。那个地方是我们的家，金丝金蛇伴我们飞翔。我们来自不同的地方，却带着一个共同的梦想。人生的路共同开创，刺激世界，一同成长。纵然路上充满困难，我们也是
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. This is officially day 2 of the TIMA Global Forum.
We hope that you had a chance to take a walk in our beautiful San Dimas campus, enjoy the California sunshine and the hospitality from all of our Tzu Chi family.
So we will be your MCs for today. My name is Christina.
And I'm Tina. Before the program begins, we're excited to have the founder of Tenaya Speaks here with us today. She's a public relations consultant and engagement strategist specialized in public education campaign for business and nonprofit organizations. Please join me in welcoming her, Tenaya Wallace.
Me? Ah, there it is. Okay, perfect. Oh, look, and my slides are up for everything. Good morning, everyone. Hi. I'm Tenaya, and we are going to talk about purpose this morning. There are a lot of definitions of purpose, but what I'm talking about is focusing on the deep root of behavior, not how you do something, but why. And that leads us to some questions like, why are you all here today, so early on a Saturday morning? Or for that matter, why am I here so early on a Saturday morning? Why is it that you work with the Tzu Chi Foundation? Why is it that you think that volunteering is so important? Why did you give 1.3 million tons of rice to Haiti? Why did you give 37,000 shoes in Sierra Leone? Why is it that you give blankets and beds and debit cards to every person who's been touched by a natural disaster across this world? And why do you give and serve with 2 hands and a bow? Well, there's a gentleman named Simon Sinek, and he says that every great organization, the most successful companies and nonprofits start with this question of why. And then he wrote a book called Find Your Why so that you can look for the answers to this question. But the thing is that Simon Sinek doesn't understand something, and that is that we all have the same why. Every single person in this room has the same why, and it's not because of your deep commitment to the mission of the Tzu Chi Foundation. It's because you and every human has the same connection, the same why, the same drive for a sense of purpose. And that purpose is to be a source of contribution to others. That's it. That's why you do what you do, because it feels good, it feels purposeful. This organization, more than any other organization I probably know of, is a source of contribution to others. And it's not just rice and shoes and beds and blankets that you are contributing each and every day. You guys are giving kindness and love and joy and hope. And that's a lot to give. So if you find that sometimes you are exhausted because you have been giving so much, give yourself a little bit of a break, because this is a lot to contribute to. What I want you to do today is I want you to think about a couple of things. Because if you know that a sense of purpose comes from being a contribution to others, then one of the things that you need to look at is how you contribute and what you want to contribute to and who. So for you, if supporting seniors is more purposeful, or helping young people feels like more of a contribution, then that's where you need to focus your energies. So answering these 2 questions of what it is you want to contribute and how you want to contribute and who you contribute to, so that you are filled back up with that sense of purpose. So keep those in mind today. I have to be honest, I did not intend, I think I have to do it that way, right. focus there, not there. I did not intend in my life to stand up before people and talk about purpose. I didn't design my life so that I would become an expert in purpose. What I wanted was to make people happy at work. So for years and years, I worked in the nonprofit world, and I did purposeful work. I was an environmentalist. I worked in organ donation. I helped hospitalized and chronically ill kids, and it felt good. But then I got cancer. And honestly, I just didn't want to give so much of myself anymore. I didn't want to contribute to other people. And so I took a job at Raytheon, which is in the military industrial complex. They're best known for the Patriot missile. And I figured at Raytheon there was no way that I was going to care. Couldn't care about bombs, right? But what I found was that I cared about people. And people at that company were very unhappy. And so I started to do some research on how to make people happy at work. And there's this whole world called employee engagement. It's how corporations think, how do we keep people involved and invested in the work that we do? And here's what I found. I found that leaders were talking about how we're finding a way back to this path of purpose. Richard Branson, for instance, says that you need to make their work a mission. Ben & Jerry's says you have to allow employees to bring their hearts and souls, not just their bodies and minds, to work. Don Pontegraf said that whether we like a job often boils down to whether it fits with our sense of purpose, whether what the job does feels like a contribution in the way we want to be contributing. This gives me hope, because millennials are the largest force of the workforce today, and they are not motivated so much by money or by status, but they want to go where work is meaningful. Deloitte University Press has actually said to employers that you have to engage employees with meaningful work, with a sense of purpose, or otherwise those employees are just going to walk out the door. There's been a tie from purpose to profit that companies are starting to see. And in the nonprofit space, there's a tie between getting people to feel the sense of purpose, feel the work that you do, and allowing people to feel a contribution that can increase giving rates within the nonprofit space. And this is something that you guys are up to. I really want to emphasize that I see the work that you do not just as giving to individuals and communities, but also really shifting how humanity works. And this shift is reflected because now, more than ever, society is starting to demand that our companies, our corporations, not just make a profit, but serve a social purpose. And that's something that you guys do each and every day, is serve that social purpose. But what about happiness? Remember, I didn't want to be a purpose expert. All I cared about was making people happy at work. Well, as it turns out, happiness is feeling a sense of community and belonging. The poorest of the poor are way happier than the richest of the rich if they feel that they belong, if they feel that there is a sense of community. So I have already answered my very first question, which is, why are you here today so early on a Saturday morning? And it's for this reason. It is because you have come together to be part of something bigger. You have come here to connect to each other. And in making those connections, reestablishing old relationships, creating new friendships, you will find that connection refuels you and creates a sense of joy in your life. You are here to feel a sense of community and to bring the power of this community out into the world, to transform the world. Look, I get all choked up when I talk about you guys. And you are here to reconnect to the purpose of the organization. You are here to reconnect to the good work that you do, not just, like I said, for the individuals and the communities that you serve, not just the sneakers and the rice, but really transforming the way that you interact with the world and bringing kindness and love and joy. So I want you to think about one more thing today as you go out and you learn more so that you can give more, because that is what you were driven here to do. I want you to think about ways that other people can contribute to you. You give so much and you contribute to so many others, and you consistently think about how you can give more, how you can be more of a contribution in the world. But unless you open yourselves up, right, and stay open for others to contribute to you so that you can get hugs, right, as you're dancing, so that others can give you love and can give you joy and can give you kindness. And then what you're doing is you're allowing those people to feel a sense of purpose as well. So you're giving them a gift too. So think today, as you're building these connections, as you're connecting to the purpose of the organization, as you're learning more, how is it that you can stay open and receive a contribution as well as give? So I've also answered my second question, which is, why am I here so early on a Saturday morning? And that is because being in the space with you, being connected to you, being a contribution to you, fills me with a sense of purpose and makes me very, very happy. So thank you, and have an amazing rest of your day. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you.
And it's a very nice speech.
Thank you so much.
Really
Look at this, a contribution.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you so much.
It is such a motivating and inspiring opening speech. That's all commit to ourselves, asking us why, looking for and remembering our purpose, and that will help us continue our path with TIMA and Tzu Chi. Thank you again, Tenaya, for a wonderful and motivating speech.
Our next speaker is Dr. Kok-Hit Hui, who is the Wallace Annenberg Professor in Integrative East-West Medicine at the David Geffen School of Medicine. He's board certified in internal medicine and clinical pharmacology with an expertise in geriatrics. He's the founder and director of the UCLA Center of East-West Medicine. Since it was founded in 1993, at the time, it was one of the first programs of its kind in this country. And as the director of the center, Dr. Hui has created a unique, evidence-based, integrative health paradigm that couples the principles of Western medicine and traditional Chinese medicine and applies them in a synergistic manner. Dr. Hui and his staff are committed to providing comprehensive, patient-centered care that is safe, effective, accessible, and affordable to all. And with that, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Hui.
Good morning. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to share with you what I have been working on at UCLA since I landed in LA late 1968-69. So it's a 50-year of work. Oh, okay, all right. Sorry. So what I was just saying is that I landed in LA in 1968-69 and started my journey at UCLA. So what I share with you in the next hour is a summary of what I hope, would make each one of us be able to help our patients a little better. So what I'd like to do is for you to actually give me some of your time to kind of think about this whole idea about integrative health, integrative medicine before my presentation, and then do a survey afterwards. So our objective today is to, for many of you, I'm pretty sure that many of you who have have heard about complementary alternative medicine and integrated medicine, and then obviously what is integrated East-West medicine. And I'd like to share with you what I see the similarities and the differences between Western medicine, which most of you are trained and practice, and how it differs from Chinese medicine. Obviously, there are experts of Chinese medicine within the audience as well. And how do we integrate the two of the most commonly used healing traditions in the world to create something that I hope would be a model for the practice of medicine, for years to come. So obviously, this is part of what we have been working with the Tzu Chi Medical Foundation through the leadership of Dr. K over the last year, and we are going to collaborate, for many more years to come. So I'm going to show a video.
Association of neurologists and other doctors for treatment of migraine and other neurological problems it was causing. It got to the point where I could hardly walk and couldn't use my arms sometimes, and I was worried about losing my job and going on disability. So after having been told that I might have to have some kind of surgery on my skull, and one neurologist said, well, maybe we could try sending you to the Center for East-West Medicine and try some acupuncture. And I was skeptical, but at that point, because I'd been through so much already and I was at a pretty drastic point, I thought, well, I'll try anything. We did a combination of things at first, a combination of some Western medicine drugs and some acupuncture and acupressure. And at the same time, they were also educating me to take care of myself and to learn to do acupressure on myself. In addition to things like getting more sleep and eating right and certain movements that I shouldn't do because of that injury that I had. Here at the East-West Center, they take a long time with you. Things just seem to be slower and calmer, more thorough. It might have been a couple of months of treatments before I really started noticing a major change. And that was just marvelous. What was looking pretty bleak, I was thinking that I was going to have to be on some kind of medication and probably a part-time easy job somewhere, has just completely turned around. So, and it's been so easy and without side effects, all that those possibilities of surgery and these heavy-duty drugs now are not in the picture.
This patient represents one of the thousands that we have helped at UCLA. We cannot help everyone. We can add value to most of the patients who have come to us. We have more than now 31,000 patient visits at UCLA with 5 clinics with a long waiting list to get in. And we have more than 500 physicians within UCLA who refer to us. So I'm going to summarize some of my thoughts about health and disease and integrated medicine, and kind of spend some time to kind of see the struggle, the hardship that we have actually developed, that we have to overcome over the last 25 years after I started the center. But more importantly, it took me the first 20-some years to integrate Western medicine as an internist, as a clinical pharmacologist, as a geriatrician, as a band clinical researcher, because it took me a long time to figure out how to put the two together and then test it out the last 25 years. So obviously, Western medicine has been so successful the last, I would say, 60, 70, 80 years, that we now have many chronic diseases that we are dealing with. We are able to get people who used to live to 50s, 60 years now to 80, 90 years. So we have a whole new set of problems that are ill sort of served by the current medical model that we have. Now, there has been a talk about prevention and also wellness and self-care, but unfortunately, the money has still been spent mostly in the acute care. So this is how I kind of look at the idea about health. Obviously, a lot of us focus a lot on the physical aspect of health, but of course with this audience, we know that psychosocial, mental, spiritual aspects are a very important part of how we actually have our bodily health. But of course, right now, what most of us have spent our time as Western-trained health professionals is to try to figure out how are we going to re-regulate, I hope re-regulate, but not suppress and stimulate the various physiological systems from neuroendocrine, the autonomic neuroendocrine, immunologic, and also vascular. So what is this CAM, complementary alternative medicine? Obviously, more and more of us now, after 20-some years of work, we now recognize that other health models and healing traditions may complement the care of our patients. And that this is a definition back in 1995. So the NIH, a number of years, so I would say 20 years ago, classified complementary alternative medicine this way. We picked traditional Chinese medicine because obviously I grew up in Hong Kong. I've been exposed to both Western and Chinese medicine. And since 1955, mainland China has embarked on the really important project, engineering project, of trying to blend Chinese and Western medicine to create a new medicine. So we have used Chinese medicine as a way that would cover many of the other aspects of so-called complementary alternative medicine, from acupuncture to Tai Chi Qigong to diet, herbal medicine, to also manual health. And obviously, in 1992, the NIH gave $2 million out of the $14 billion to start up the Office of Alternative Medicine. But over the years, this has become complementary to the latest naming of the center called National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. As far as I'm concerned, as far as any patient is concerned, there's only one medicine that keeps me well and healthy, and at the same time, that can make me better. Now, this is not just us at UCLA. We are one of the first to put together an integrated medicine center, but there are now more than 72 centers and more. Actually, there are many more trying to join this consortium to try to work on this area called integrated medicine. And it reaffirms the importance of relationship between practitioner and patient and focus on the whole person, not different organ systems and different diseases, but the whole person. And that we utilize different approaches and health professionals and disciplines to achieve optimal healing. So another way of defining it is person-centered. It is systemic. The word holistic, for some people, may not mean a lot, but I think very comprehensive. And the most important is to leverage and recognize that the body can heal itself if you are taking away a lot of the noxious factors and the bad lifestyles. The body can heal if they sleep well, they exercise appropriately, they are able to handle their stress, and emphasize prevention and wellness. So what is the model that we practice at UCLA? There are different types of clinical models of integrated medicine. For us, we as I said before, incorporate the principles and the modalities of traditional Chinese medicine. And we have a whole workshop in the afternoon to go over how we apply it in our clinical model through the workshop in the chapel later on this afternoon. So obviously, biopsychosocial and also environmental perspective. And one thing that we really emphasize is that you have to not just look at the patient, you have to touch the patient. Soft tissues. Don't just do MRIs and X-rays. Many of the people's pain and non-pain problems cannot be sort of detected by imaging studies. You need to touch your patient. And we will talk a little bit about that, why that is. So this is the Chinese medical model. Because it is an old model, unlike most recently, I think that people are concerned that China, in their attempt to integrate, they have Western medicalized Chinese medicine by looking into different diseases and how herbs and acupuncture can treat different diseases. Much more important is to look at the old Chinese model that emphasizes the human as part of an integrated whole and how it interacts with the environment, both natural and social, and there's no separation of body, mind, and spirit. Because a lot of people talk about Asians don't believe in psychiatry. It's because psychosocial, spiritual aspects are part of the whole person's health. One thing that Chinese medicine focuses on is the diagnosis of the pattern. The pattern that we actually also have the pattern in Western medicine. We have DIC, we have systemic inflammatory response syndrome, we have insulin or metabolic syndrome, sort of thing. But Chinese medicine basically really look at the patient is, where is the imbalance? This is a commonality between East and West. Where's the imbalance? Where's the flow problem? Why is the body not able to maintain the flow and the balance that allow us to stay well and healthy? So when you have chronic problems, not just episodic, because the body is already so depleted with the homeostatic reserve, they call it Qi, maybe in Ayurvedic they call it Prana, is that you do not have that reserve to maintain the body's balance and flow. So it doesn't matter how many more diseases you got. I think much more important to look at the whole patient. So the goal of treatment is to restore the balance and the flow, and that's what we do. But oftentimes we use block and stimulate rather than re-regulate. Because when the body is sort of getting a lot of stress of different type, it basically would disturb the balance. And if you disturb it long enough, you are going to get into the flow problems, okay? So Chinese medicine's forte is to cultivate the body's sort of endogenous resistance to to disease. So it's to cultivate your homeostatic reserve. So that's why maybe it is somewhat related to the idea of resilience. So prevention is a major part of Chinese medicine for thousands of years. Right now, when we treat diseases when the patient is an extremist, obviously it's very dramatic. We spend a lot of money, and it's like you dig a well when you are thirsty. Okay. So our idea about prevention is sort of looking at sort of the whole situation, not just looking at the trees and the branches and the roots, okay, the organ, the tissue, the cell, the molecule. Looking at the whole. The whole is not even just the patient, but the patient's family and the belief systems, their preferences, and so on and so forth. So I think very important for us to kind of look at in a very comprehensive way. So by 1993 December, this is our 25th to 26th year, that I could not wait any longer because intellectually I have been thinking about how to put it together. I went to my chairman and he let me do it. I raised the money to build it because it was recession, there's no money. I raised most of the money to build the Center for East-West Medicine. And our goal is not to find a disease for a particular solution for a particular disease or drug, or but really try to see how we can put the two medicines together to create a better healthcare model that is not only effective, but cost-effective, affordable, accessible, and safe. So in any sort of work, you need to have a lot of people to help you. Obviously, without my parents, without my late wife, this would not have happened. But obviously, intellectually, my mentor, Dean Malenkov, he have been my mentor since I was a second-year med student. And we talk about my dream. And obviously, he retired already. He made UCLA to be a world-renowned university since he became dean from 1963 to 85 when he retired. So he had a lot of trust in me, and his letter has provided me with the direction of what I'm going to do. So now it's on to trying to make this model be available globally, and I hope that I will be able to, share with, you from different parts of, the world who come here. So I can only have time to talk a little bit about our clinical model and how we try to educate people at UCLA and us also around the world. But we have different components of it when we develop the center. So the clinical model, we now have 13 board-certified internists, actually one family medicine physician, trained in East-West Medicine, because our sort of center is housed in the Department of Medicine at UCLA, and my chairman have been chairman for the last 20-some years, so he has allowed me to build this. So we are only mainly hiring internists and also family medicine physicians. And we also have acupuncturists who are also trained in East-West Medicine. Our population, we have always been the clinic of last resort at UCLA. About 7-8 years ago, I believe that there's no point to be the clinic of last resort. We want to train more primary care physicians. So we built a primary care East-West model to allow sort of faculty for this model to be sort of disseminated to the primary care system. And we'll talk about what I mean by primary care system, not primary care physicians. Okay, primary care system. So, clinical models in integrative medicine. There are a lot of programs. I think that we are really the one that has been very successful to the point that we are part of cardiology, rheumatology referral within UCLA. They just type East-West, then we go do consultation at UCLA. We try to blend the best ingredients of the two models to make it useful, clinically useful, scientifically plausible, socially acceptable, clinically, financially solvent, and legally defensible. Because many other programs, I think, are more like an international buffet. So it's really important to be well-grounded in Western medicine, recognize the inadequacy of Western medicine, and then understand enough about Chinese medicine, how to utilize the best part of Chinese medicine, and then incorporating it so that it will be clinically useful. And we focus on the idea about pain. Because pain is a major problem, and now, looking back 20-some years, I made the right decision because now we have an opiate crisis. We have chronic pain crisis. So when we decide to focus on pain, it's because I don't like to use NSAIDs because it really has a lot of complications. Obviously, no narcotics. So we use non-pharmacological approach to manage it. So I already talked about most of the problems that we face is that we do not look at the root of the problem. The root of the problem oftentimes is the person. So if we do not look at the person, the person's environment, social situations, their lifestyle, their habits, we will be dealing with the symptom, whether it's east or west. So in our clinical model, which I think we would talk a little bit more, self-care is very important. We educate the patient on how to eat, how to sleep better, how to rest and work and exercise, and then we teach them, some of the acupressure. We do acupuncture, we do trigger points, we adjust their medications, and sometimes we advise them to stop their supplements, which may not be necessary. So, Sir William Osler is the father of modern Western medicine. He actually talked about the importance of really knowing your patient and not the diseases in your patient. But unfortunately, we have drifted away from it the last, 70, 80 years. Okay? I'm so glad that the New England Journal, the flagship of Western medicine, have a paper written by the chairman of Harvard Medical School emphasizing the need to put the patient back together. Okay? Talking about the social determinant of health, talking about network medicine, and the limits of reductionism, which is really the current clinical model of Western medicine. I think it's a good paper for each one of you to read. So in my view, I think that to keep people well and healthy, which I think should start at home and trying to have, in general, the person who is a health coach and the health navigator in general, usually the mother, the wife, and the daughter, for them to really learn more about how do you cultivate health. And obviously, we always would need Western medicine. It would add to keeping people well and healthy as well. But obviously, our forte is to save lives. The question is at what cost? That's the part that I have been working on, because the current approach is going to bankrupt every family. So, because this is really why in year 1995, actually 2005. In 1995, I already talked about the healthcare crisis. But 2005, 10 years later, PricewaterhouseCoopers have a report saying that the current health system of nations around the world will be unsustainable if unchanged over the next 15 years. I don't think that we are changing fast enough, and that's why I'm very impatient right now to see what I can do in the next 10 years if I live to 80. I'm going to be 70 years old very soon. Because it really is a major, major crisis, not just, not just healthcare, it's financial and social. So, the opioid crisis. Now, how many dentists are here? Actually, I have been lecturing to the dentist group as well. Opioids prescribed by dentists account for 8% in the US. They top the list of opioids prescribed to adolescents aged 10 to 19. This is the first exposure for them to narcotics. Okay. So very important for dentists, and that's why UCLA Dental School, with Cynthia Deep, who we'll talk about later on today, have a course on acupuncture for dentists. So we now are talking about using $40 billion and until 2025 to deal with the opioid crisis. And the life expectancy of the United States have dropped the last 2-3 years. because many people, younger people, die, okay, from the overdose. Next one. So I believe that acupuncture has a very important role, and you don't need to worry about needling. You don't need to use needles, and I'm going to say a few words about it, okay? So I think that acupuncture is the most evidence-based, immediately available choice to, address the healthcare crisis of opiate. It's low cost. It really should be available in Medicare, but unfortunately, it's not. And Julie Chu has been pushing for it, but we don't have enough sort of votes to get it be covered in Medicare. So everyone in this country, at least, know that acupuncture is good for pain control. Because I first get exposed to looking at acupuncture being used during surgery. And, but more importantly, right now, all the medics in the NATO are getting trained in acupuncture, ear acupuncture. So just a few points in the ear. Because imagine that you have someone with pain, and you give them morphine, and you have to carry these people, off the battlefield. But instead, they just do, ear acupuncture, which get some people trained within, weeks. So I'm sure many of you have neck pain, okay? All of you have neck pain. And I think that if you learn how to massage your hand, a point between the fourth and the fifth metacarpal, you can relieve your neck spasm, okay? I'm pretty sure that many of us with our stressful lifestyle and work. So acupuncture, the reason why it's so safe is that it modulates, it restores homeostatic balance. And that this is written in the American Journal of Gastroenterology in 1992. A lot of research has been done in this area for the last 40, 50 years. There are different ways to stimulate the acupuncture points. Right now, because we have such a long waiting list, we teach our patients to just get a TENS unit, besides using their hands, or golf ball, or tennis ball. We teach them how to use a TENS unit, which now the cost has come down to $30, $40. And they're wireless. And actually, there's one that you can even plug into your cell phone to allow certain points to be stimulated. Obviously, the best advertisement for acupuncture light stimulation is Michael Phelps during the Olympics when he had cupping. Cupping is local acupuncture point stimulation. Side effects, very, very safe, because acupuncturist malpractice insurance is less than $1,000. Okay, if you know your anatomy, the needles are so short that if at least the style that we practice, is very, very safe, over the years. So the WHO actually put together some recommendations. Obviously, they are not as rigorous as the US, based on systematic reviews and RCT, but some of these recommendations are quite, shocking for some people. They say, oh, not just pain, but for GYN problems, for dermatology, for urticaria, for eczema, a lot of problems in neurology, even in cardiology. Most people don't know that acupuncture is actually useful when you have the flu. If you know how to do it, you can get better a lot quicker. And we have a program on ENT that we are able to help a lot of people who have sinus, who fail sinus surgery. But we want them to have this before they have sinus surgery. And obviously, we use it for stress management. A lot of GI problems, we have a program in GI, we have an eye program. In a sense, we have been, over the years, helping many patients who come to us with the myriad of the problems, started with pain, but then they have many, many other problems that using this model of teaching the patient to take care of themselves, you are able to help the body to heal. So, stress management. I just want to mention about stress a little bit because I think that a lot of don't ask whether the patient has stress. If you understand the patient, you know that they are in a very stressful situation. Some people think that stress is that, oh, they get so panicked that they would just pee in their pants. No, I have lawyers who deal with death penalty, and he had many health problems, and he did not know that he is under stress. Okay, so don't ask whether someone has stress or not. You try to understand the person and recognizing that they are in a stressful situation that they don't even recognize. But if you put your hand and touch on the patient, you will know that their neck is tight, their back is tight. You don't necessarily need to have pain. The most important thing in our work is that when your muscle is tight, that means that it's our balance and impedes flow. A lot of research has been done. You can just do PubMed on acupuncture. There are thousands of papers on basic science, from clinical trials, and so on and so forth. The functional MRI have demonstrated that when you sort of stimulate a point called Hegu, Li4, in your second metacarpal area, it basically, tone down the stress response. This was published, by the group at Mass General almost 20 years ago. Another point, Tai Chong Liver 3 is another major point that we use. Deals with emotions, anger, frustration. Again, it was been demonstrated to have anti-pain, anti-anxiety, anti-stress. So very simple. Each one of you should go home and then try to just massage these 2 points and see whether they are sensitive. They're lumpy and sensitive. Then you're under stress. And you can treat it. So now this is Western medicine, trigger points. I hope that many of you have been doing and examining for trigger points. When you go to get your massage, you say, oh, that knot in my neck, or that knot in my shoulder, in my scapula, that knot in my low back. These are trigger points. And trigger points, can be from stress, can be from our injuries, can be from our sleep, poor sleep, and micro trauma. I mean, that's why we see a lot of dentists, dental hygienists, lawyers. Lawyers are, to me, verbal gladiators. They argue a lot. They get angry, okay? So many of them have trigger points. And my first integration approach was to integrate acupuncture point with trigger points and also tender points that we see in patients with fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia patients have a mixed pattern. They have kind of deficiency, but also they have myofascial trigger point as well. Ideally, should treat the myofascial trigger points that may be related to pain or non-pain manifestations. Many people have a lot of non-pain manifestations. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the afternoon. If you want to read something about non-pharmacological approach to pain, the consortium have put together a white paper that sort of goes through the evidence for acupuncture, for massage, for Tai Chi, and also for self-care. Without knowing anything about Chinese medicine, Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller, for the last 20-some years, have worked on this concept called allostatic low, which is a very, very important piece of work that explain a lot of things about Chinese medicine. That when you have a lot of stress, a little stress is good. When you're under chronic stress and you're not even close to burnout, you are talking about activating first the autonomic that give you the functional syndromes, to then the neuroendocrine, and then the immunologic, the autoimmune diseases. Some people go right from autonomic, boom, all the way to stroke and MI, okay, or cancer. It's not sequential. But over the years, I've seen people throughout, of different spectrum, that they are out of balance and different systems get activated. Very important piece of work for you to read from Western medicine. And the other part that I always try to emphasize to my residents and fellows is that the vagal nerve modulates the inflammatory cascade. And most chronic illnesses have an inflammatory component. So when your neck is tight, there is already an autonomic, sympathetic, and vagal imbalance. If your low back is tight, and not just pain to the point where you cannot move, that's orthopedic, but your low back is tight, that means that your adrenal system is not adequate to handle the stress. So very important to really understand how this can be used to help yourself. Don't look at this as just another additional way to treat a problem. Try to understand how this all is a comprehensive view of reorientate some of the things that you have been taught or practiced. So PNAS published about, there's many more type of research talking about how chronic stress leads to inflammation. So very important to have an anti-inflammatory diet. So in Chinese medicine, we will talk about how to look at your constitution, how to look at your tongue, and how do you eat in an appropriate way. So these are different ways for us to teach our patients how to handle their stress. Journaling is very good, and I think crying, particularly for a lot of our female patients, because oftentimes they are not able to cry at work, and crying is good for men too. It's just that man has never been taught to cry. Women used to cry when they are not in the workforce. Okay, now they harbor every anger internally. That's how they get their reflux, their migraines, their autoimmune diseases, and also their cancer. So Tai Chi and Qigong, obviously, more and more research has been done to demonstrate the value of Tai Chi, and we are trying to figure out how to certify Tai Chi instructors. They're beginning to have some yoga instructors, but some of these type of approaches, without certification, to apply to different patients with diseases may be problematic. So, but again, lots of research has been done from Tai Chi for fibromyalgia, for Parkinson's disease, for heart failure, to improve depression and so on. So I think, not that Tai Chi is not useful, we do not have certified Tai Chi instructors. That's what we're working on as well. So the next part that I have been trying to emphasize, and that's why part of what we are going to work on with Tzu Chi Medical Foundation is to introduce the concept of oral health to the dentist and the dental hygienist. Because this is a JAMA editorial, a JAMA viewpoint. The oral cavity serves a useful indicator for health and disease, and a site for diagnosis and therapeutic assess and also discovery. Again, this afternoon, we have a session on that. How about integrating East and West nutrition? We wrote a paper too about how we try to, and there's a session that we will talk about this afternoon, culinary medicine, East and West, and then how to use some of these to help patients with diabetes. In general, Western nutrition, the reason why there are sort of a lot of different types of diet for different, and the papers sometimes say yes and no, is because we always treat everyone as being the same, when in fact, we are not the same. Okay, that's why the Constitution is important. And then during the period for women, okay, during different age group, you have to adjust the diet according to the pattern, to the Constitution. So in general, we use Chinese medicine to fine-tune. I don't have time to talk about Chinese herbal medicine. Chinese herbal medicine, obviously, Dou Youyou got the Nobel Prize 2015 from discovery of artemisinin from Tsinghua, but that's still Western medicine. As a clinical pharmacologist, I have studied Chinese herbal medicine for the last 40-some years. I think this is going to be a very important sort of a drug therapy to solve many of the problems. Unfortunately, most Western MDs are very concerned about herb-drug interactions. And indeed, this is a concern that I have too. Very important to try to have MDs to recognize the value of herbal medicine, to have pharmacists, and I want to work with pharmacists to understand supplements, herbs, and also drugs to help with monitoring. And I want the herbalists, it takes a long time for people to be good in doing herbal medicine, to know enough about pathophysiology and pharmacology and work in this team approach. I think that right now, the journey to get Chinese herbal medicine into the Western world has not been successful because it's a whole different way of assessing Chinese herbal medicine. But it can be used to save lives in cancer, in infections, in heart disease. That's the granddaddy of Chinese medicine, is Chinese herbal medicine. Now, a lot of people, a lot of our patients don't tell their doctors what they are doing with other medicines. They are sort of trying to orchestrate, but it's not well orchestrated healthcare. Okay? I think that you need to sort of know both to see at what point you use which, but a lot of patients are doing it behind our backs as health professionals. So we have been teaching different level of people because it's not important just to work with the health professionals, because I believe that my idea about primary care has to start at home. Home care, self-care, and I want every sort of sectors of society to be aware of what we are facing with, why this new model is important, and how we can shift our thinking a lot faster to create a better healthcare model. So media is very important. I consult for the WHO, I have consult for countries and cities, and obviously corporate wellness, very important. GM went bankrupt because of their high insurance premium costs. So we have been educating, and when I raised money, I did not have fancy clinics. I basically start a rotation for first-year MS students to fourth-year MS students, residents, and start a fellowship in 1999. So right now, 4 of my associate professors, or 3 of my associate professors are my former fourth-year students and also residents. So we also take our work outside of the medical field. We want every student in the university level, and then obviously go to the high school, so that each one of them know about how to take care of themselves, how to become parents, will be able to then teach their kids. So we held the first, in 2011, the first annual National Student Conference of Integrative at UCLA. And many of our students, that their insight is that many problems that we encounter in medical school or in residency are not able to be solved. And this rotation demonstrates. So that's why at the clinical level, it's very easy to teach because you have every data in front of you. You take your history. We'll go through the history later on, how the history taking is important, and how do you look at the physical findings, and then how do you put together a sort of a plan of approach to help the patient. We take our work globally. Even China has been doing it for the last 60 some years, but we actually share our model with Shanghai and train 10,000 Western trained physicians and public health leadership for their 242 clinics, comprehensive clinics for the entire Shanghai. It took us 3 years using a online model. We also see they are very serious. They have exams. If they fail, the salary will be cut. So we also take our work to Shanghai to train their primary care TCM doctors to leapfrog, because they have no primary care in Chinese medicine. But then we teach them how we train family medicine doctors, how we train geriatricians. And so I think China is embarking on a very, very big experiment again. We take our work also to Poland and also to Eastern Europe as well. And over the last 2 years, we also have been training many of the Western doctors from different countries, from Brazil, from Malaysia, from African countries, as well as from Eastern Europe, from Poland, and also Slovakia. Now, one thing that I'm working on very hard the last several months is because since I spoke at the American Society of Clinical Oncology, I recognize that the drugs are so expensive for cancer that in geriatric patients with cancer, unless we have a better way to assess how best to help our aging patients with cancer, we need to be concerned about how different families will go bankrupt. It will bankrupt countries, for sure. We already have a tough enough problem before all these new drugs that are made available, but they are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that some people may not be the best candidate for getting it. So that's what I talk about at the Nobel Cancer Summit, in Hainan. And because besides breast cancer, lung cancer, and even some colon cancer, some other cancers that have become chronic diseases, but each course of treatment is going to, I would say, bankrupt many countries that do not have the kind of health insurance that we have. But then obviously we don't have enough money now to build schools and bridges and so on if we spend all the money in treatment of cancer when the quality of life of the patient may be only increased by a few months. So I already talked about the healthcare crisis. So this is just like to remind us that we need to really develop a comprehensive assessment of any elderly patients with a serious illness to try to really look at the evidence, not just the cancer, or not just a particular, obviously, with severe liver or heart disease, the transplant organ, availability, obviously, limits. But now everyone's going to get cancer, okay, in some way, many of our patients. So very important that this will not accelerate sort of our sort of financial situation for many families, not just the many other social aspects of it. So for many years, I have been sort of pushing for sort of a development of this model to help potentially solve the healthcare crisis. I think there's a healthcare crisis, there's a financial crisis, and I believe that it just needs visionaries, every sector, to come together. Now, I want to pay respect to many of these pioneers of integrative medicine in China. They are oncologists, they are endocrinologists, pediatricians, scientists, surgeons, cardiologists. Many of them, these are Western MDs in China in the 50s, including Tou Youyou, who got a Nobel Prize. I learned from them in my head. I've learned from one of them. I've learned from many of the people in the Western world in English. This work is very, very difficult, very complicated. You basically need to understand sort of how to put the two together. The two medicines, I think it can be done. Unfortunately, we may not have that much time to try to sort of train enough people fast enough to help address the healthcare crisis. So I was also in Taiwan as well, some of you. These are leadership within China in Taiwan who is actually working on this development of this model as well. And the WHO has now, with the ICD-11, include traditional medicine, not just Chinese medicine, but eventually, all traditional medicines will become sort of a part of the ICD-11. I encourage each of you from your respective countries to look into your traditional medicine. Obviously, Chinese medicine seems to be much more developed with the 60-some years of a lot of the effort by the central government. So this is where we are. We really want to continue to improve our current model by including integrative mental health, culinary medicine, and also herbal medicine, optimize our eye project and oral health project, and then together with many of you, because I start out working with just the Alhambra clinic, but we would want to make this work available in online format and in different languages to allow this work not only to be available within the UCLA health system in LA, with the county health system, but also through NGOs, including Tzu Chi. So it's not just people in medicine. I really want people outside of medicine to participate in this work. I wrote this WHO paper in around the turn of the century, 2000 at WHO in Japan, is that we need visionaries at every sector because you need educators, you need computer scientists, technology experts. We need people who know how to help us scale because how can we collectively, with the same goal to help the next person, the next society, how can we come together to allow this new health model to be developed, including other healing traditions, not just Chinese medicine. So that's my second dream. My first dream has been achieved. I should be retiring, but then, no, I'm renew energy to try to see what else we can do to develop a better healing environment, to try to really incorporate healing traditions, caregivers, and also institutions, and make the healthcare to be more affordable and accessible, and not just being safe and effective. I think with that, I'd like to just thank Dr. K and Dr. Lin, and obviously many leadership, from Tzu Chi Medical Foundation to open their arms to our center's staff and work. So together, we can make the, healthcare and a better, for many of our loved ones. So we have classes to take our students, even undergraduate students, to learn this, to go to China, and we have a summer course. This is also our 25th, 26th year anniversary, and we are thinking about what we're going to do in the next 25 years. I think UCLA is going to be 100 years old in May. So what I have suggested to UCLA is that if we together work with humanities, besides the technological biomedicine, to create a better healthcare model and make it culturally sensitive, LA, being such a diversified sort of county, we would be able to, have this model to be developed, to be shared with others coming from different cultures. So with that, I thank you for your attention. I may have gone overboard. Thank you.
Thank you again to Dr. Hui. It is clear that this blend of Eastern and Western medicine will give us a better view of the whole person and also give us a deeper insight to the root causes behind the manifestations of these diseases. And what Dr. Hui described just now is well in line with the IHI's triple aim of population health, patient care experience, and cost. And with this, I have no doubts at all that this center will continue to grow and to thrive, especially as healthcare trends shift. And Dr. Hui mentioned something about retirement, but somehow I don't see that happening. I believe that he will be at the forefront of East-West medicine and this integrative medicine piece. So thank you again to Dr. Hui.
In the next program, we're honored to have Congressman Ted Lieu representing California 33rd Congressional District. In Congress, he's often sought out for his insight on technology and innovation matters such as cloud computing and the creative economy. Also, he has been an outspoken proponent for tackling climate change and the environmental issue. Now, please join me in welcoming Congressman Ted Lieu.
大家好，我是刘英平国会议员，我在台湾生的，3岁来美国，谢谢你请我来。I'm Congressman Ted Lieu. I'm so honored you asked me to come here. I was born in Taiwan. I came here when I was 3 years old, and I want to thank Dr. Peter Chen for inviting me to speak, as well as to your leadership. And I want to thank Dr. William Kay, the CEO of the Tzu Chi Medical Foundation, as well as Dr. Lin, the chief convener of the Tzu Chi International Medical Association, Stephen Huang, your executive director of Global Volunteers, and Power Yen, the CEO of the Tzu Chi Charity Foundation. So thank you for your leadership. We had some really bad wildfires in my district in Malibu, as well as Calabasas and Agoura Hills. I met with many of your volunteers. I want to thank you for helping the wildfire victims. Thank you for giving me one of the blankets and for all that you do for disaster relief. And it's such an honor to be here with your organization. You have helped millions of people in over 50 countries. So I want to thank you for all that you do. I'm going to talk about three things today. I'm going to give you my story, and then I'm going to talk to you about the Affordable Care Act and healthcare and updates from Congress related to healthcare, and then I'll conclude on foreign aid to other countries. So my story is the same as yours or your parents or your grandparents. I am an immigrant, and when my parents came to America, they were poor, and we started off living in the basement of a person's home, and they went to flea markets and sold gifts and jewelry to help make ends meet. They worked for many years, saved their money, and opened one gift and jewelry store in a shopping center. And then they saved their money, worked 7 days a week, opened one gift and jewelry store in a shopping mall. And then my brother and I would help watch that store. And eventually, they expanded to over 6 stores. So in my mind, they achieved the American dream. They went from being poor to a home, gave my brother and I an amazing education. My brother is a doctor now, and my parents still remind me of that. But it's also one reason I joined the United States Air Force on active duty. I believe I can never give back to America everything this amazing country has given to me. One reason I still choose to remain in the reserves. I am a colonel at Los Angeles Air Force Base, and it's one reason I'm in politics. And one reason I'm in politics is to make sure that this American dream remains open for people who want to work hard and succeed. After active duty Air Force, I went into private practice. I'm also a recovering lawyer, and so I was a lawyer for about 5 years. And then I was elected to Torrance City Council. I served 9 years in the California State Legislature, and now I'm in my 5th year in Congress in my 3rd term. And I wouldn't be here but for my family and my parents, and so I want to recognize that both my mom and my dad, Carrie and George Lieu, are here with me today. So thank you for being here. Oh, there they are. Okay, very good. So I have always been very passionate about healthcare, and I'll give you a story. When I was in the California State Legislature, I was eating at a restaurant, and this waitress recognized that I was in the California State Legislature, and she came up to me and she asked for help. And at that time in California, this was before Obamacare had passed, at that time in California, if you were an adult with no minor age children, you could not get government subsidized or government sponsored health care. And so what happened is she had a daughter, but her daughter recently turned 18, so she had no minor children, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She tried to get private insurance, but she couldn't because she had a pre-existing condition from many years ago that actually had been resolved, but the private insurers did not want to take a risk on her. She couldn't get any government health insurance, and I realized that she was essentially going to slowly die because the emergency rooms don't take care of cancer patients like her. What's going to end up happening is she's going to get sicker and sicker. Eventually, she will get so sick, she will walk into the emergency room, and then they will take care of her for a few days, and then she's going to die. And my view is, in a country as wealthy as the United States, this should never happen. And so I voted for every single healthcare reform that's passed before me. And right now, because of the Affordable Care Act, that can't happen anymore. People like her now can get health insurance, and if you're below a certain level of income, you'll get government subsidies, and it has helped the uninsured reduce that rate by huge margins in California and across America. The Affordable Care Act also does more than help people get uninsured get insurance. It also affects people who currently have health insurance through employer-based health plans. So most people in America actually get their health insurance through their job. The Affordable Care Act makes sure that those health plans have standards that we must meet in order for those plans to be offered. So for example, before the Affordable Care Act was passed, insurers could put lifetime coverage caps and annual coverage caps on you. So let's say you came down with a very expensive disease to treat, a rare illness or something like cancer, and your treatment exceeded a certain amount per year, the insurance companies could come to you and say, we're going to stop paying because you've exceeded our coverage cap. And then if exceeded it over a certain amount that they put the cap for the lifetime, they could say, we're going to stop paying altogether. So as a result, a number of people started going bankrupt, even though they had health insurance. The Affordable Care Act said you can't do that anymore. You cannot put on any coverage caps, either lifetime or annual. And that has helped a lot of people across America who currently have insurance through their jobs. It also made it so that you can't sell what's known as junk insurance plans. So for decades, insurance companies would sell these plans that people would get, and they thought it would cover them, except when you read the fine print, it ended up saying that, well, it only covers you if you don't go to the emergency room. Well, most people would think they get covered, they go to the with insurance, they go to the emergency room. So all these junk health plans would no longer be available under Obamacare. And then another thing it did, it said for all these insurance plans, if you have someone, a son or daughter, they could be on that insurance plan till the age of 26. And so there's a lot of very good things in Obamacare. Unfortunately, the Donald Trump administration is seeking to eliminate the entire law. Just last week, they went into court and they asked the courts to strike down the Affordable Care Act. They asked the courts to get rid of this health care law that has helped many people across America. And there is no plan if they did that. Right now, the Trump administration has no plan for an alternative health care proposal. And so, first of all, we hope the courts don't listen to the administration. We hope the courts will continue to uphold Obamacare. But right now, it is causing a lot of anxiety, a lot of people who are very worried that they may lose their health care because of actions of the Donald Trump administration. So in Congress, we're pushing back on that. In fact, there is bipartisan pushback. Both Republicans and Democrats are telling the Trump administration, do not do this. Do not eliminate Obamacare without a plan. And so that's what we're going to be fighting for, I imagine, for the next year and a half. And healthcare continues to be one of the most important issues that both Congress and state legislatures deal with. So just last week, the Democrats in Congress introduced a healthcare proposal that's going to strengthen Obamacare. We're going to provide additional tax credits for people who currently can't afford the insurance. We're going to put additional requirements on to make, again, junk insurance plans not to be able to be sold. We're going to make sure that we don't allow the administration to keep sabotaging the Affordable Care Act. So that's what we're trying to do in Congress. We're trying to make sure that everyone can get access to quality, affordable health care. Thank you. Shortly, we're going to be introducing legislation to reduce the prices of drugs. And so I'll tell you another story. When I was in my first term in Congress, I was on the House Oversight Committee, and we held a hearing on generic drug prices. So generic drugs, in my opinion, should never spike up in cost. There is no reason, right, for generic drugs to increase in cost because all the research and development has already been done on these drugs. Unfortunately, we saw these large spikes in generic drugs. And one reason we discovered at this hearing was there was this person named Martin Shkreli. He was an investor. He brought an AIDS drug, and then he increased the price 5,000%. And people, unfortunately, had to buy it because otherwise they were going to die. And so he knew he could go after the most vulnerable people, make them pay enormous amounts for this drug, even though it was a generic drug. And the reason is because he figured out that based on how slowly our Food and Drug Administration was approving generic drug manufacturers, he could buy this drug and know that it would be another 5 to 6 years before another generic drug manufacturer would be approved to manufacture the same exact drug. As a result, he would have this monopoly for about 5 to 6 years where he could increase prices 5,000%. After this hearing, the FDA pledged that they would reduce that backlog to about 8 months. So we keep working with them to do that, and hopefully over time we'll reduce the prices of generic drugs. In addition, what legislation is going to come out is also going to look at reducing the prices of non-generic prescription drugs as well. And drug prices are one of the highest driving costs of healthcare right now. So we're in Congress working on that issue also. So let me now transition to foreign aid. Many people think that the U.S. budget spends a lot on foreign aid. That's actually not true. It's actually less than 1% of our budget goes to foreign aid, and it is a program that is very beneficial to the United States. When we aid other countries, when we aid disaster victims, when we aid people who are in need of help, the United States ends up having countries and allies that stick with us when we need help. And so it's a program that many of us support, and I want to let you know that later this month, I'm going to be signing on to a letter for the House Global Fund and PEPFAR, which asks for robust funding for the Global Fund to fight AIDS and malaria. In addition, I'll be signing on to a second letter that's going to ask for more funding for the maternal and child health care account, as well as the nutrition account. And then I'm going to be signing on to a third letter that asks for $400 million for the bilateral tuberculosis program at USAID. And my view is we need to actually increase foreign aid funding. Former Secretary of Defense Mattis had said that when you don't spend money on foreign aid and on diplomacy, you're going to have to spend more money on bullets. And so he was also a big supporter of foreign aid. And my view is that we need to have the U.S. government do foreign aid, but it's not enough. We need private nonprofits like what you all do to help disaster victims around the world. And it's through your good works and your charity that really can help a lot of people that government either can't get to or doesn't have the resources to do so. And so from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for everything that you do. And I have now, in conclusion, a congressional certificate that I'd like to present to your leadership. And I'm going to read it to you. It's a certificate of congressional recognition presented to Buddhist Tzu Chi Medical Foundation in recognition and celebration of the 5th TIMA Global Forum held in the United States and your 25th anniversary, with sincere appreciation for providing multi-million-dollar value and charitable medical services to underserved communities throughout the years. Congratulations.
Thank you. We also have small surprise. Oh. Small surprise.
So today we also have a little surprise for you. It's the birthday of our congressman. Let's all sing happy birthday.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
We would also like to invite the parents of our congressman to enjoy this moment together.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
All right, right, everyone, sing along. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Good. Can you tell us?
So,
Maybe a
no.
big portion, okay?
So I won't tell you my wish, but I do know there are many doctors here, so I just want you to know I've scheduled my colonoscopy already. So thank you.
Good, man. 50 years. Good.
Thank you for this little and beautiful surprise. And thank you again to Congressman Ted Lieu for his inspiring stories and every effort that he has put into Congress to make healthcare and medication affordable for everyone. Christina and I always know that when there's a cake, there's a break. So let's have our first break of today, and we'll have our lead attendee to direct everyone to the resting area. Thank you.